Hi, good morning. Welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. I will wait a few seconds for people to pop over from the pre-chat room. If you join me live for the podcast and you arrive before I do, there's a pre-chat where you can start talking with other people who are joining. And so I wait a few seconds for people to pop over from there. Hi, Kranjeet and Barbara. Thanks for joining live. If you're joining live, please say hello. Hi, Cherie and Rose and Butterfly Kisses. That's the color of the nail polish on my toes right now. Hi, Christine and Barbara and Judy and Crochet Laddie. Sweet Melissa, good morning. Lucy, Joe, Grace, Becky, Naomi. Wow, Naomi's in Paris. Have a great time. That sounds awesome. I've never been there before. Would love to though. Hi, Annette and Linda. Thanks for joining live. As you can see, we're in my backyard. Stormy again today, so I wasn't sure if it was going to last. Turns out it's fine, but whatever. Hi, Jane and Kathy and Becky. Thanks for joining live, everybody. Welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 435, and we're live in Southwest Florida in my backyard. If you're joining me live, please say hello. If you watch the recorded version, which I know most of you do, please feel welcome to say hello as well and leave comments, because I get notifications throughout the day and have the ability to communicate with you as well. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate you being here. Yesterday, we did our evening podcast at the beach and did our first sunset podcast. And I started talking a little bit about foundation ovals. So if you missed that podcast and you would like to see the beginning of our long discussion about foundation ovals, you would want to go check out episode 434, which was recorded yesterday. Today we'll work on that a little more too, but I did promise that each day this week I would be showing a different sale yarn so you could see the colors live and in person. Well, not in person, you know what I mean. So this week for the Christmas in July sale, each week there's a different set of things on sale. The first week was books and patterns. This is the second week, and this week I've put on sale Be So Bold yarn, Be So Lush yarn, Be So Serene yarn, and Be So Baby yarn. So far I've shown you all the colors of Be So Bold on Monday and Be So Serene yesterday on Tuesday. So today I brought all 15 colors of Be So Baby yarn, which is the third of the 4 yarns on sale this week. Also, I'm offering a free gift set with purchase on every order over $100. So whether it's sale yarn or anything in my shop, if your order comes to $100, I will be sending you a $10 value in your package of a bottle of Wrapture and a lingerie bag. Well, hello, baby Bjorn. Did you want to say hi today? Maybe. Just don't rub the tripod, okay? Nobody wants the kitty earthquake. All right, he's rubbing his face, so if you see the camera jerk a little bit, it's going to be because of him. So, forewarning you. It's okay, buddy. Okay, I'm going to show the yarn now though, okay? All right, so I was going to show, and I have all my yarn in the Shangri-La tapestry bag, which is a beautiful pattern done in Be So Baby yarn. I have a couple of beautiful baby projects and some bag projects so far, and it is a number 4 DK weight yarn, so easy to substitute as well, and it's 100% milk fiber. So I'll show you the colors real quick. This is Diva and Princess, Buttercup and Navy, Orchid and Mint, Peach and Clover. I love Diva too. It's a really beautiful raspberry. I should have been describing them to you. Here's Splash and Violet, and Snowflake and Prince, Turquoise and Cherry, and platinum. So that should be 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's right. Okay, so as I put them back in the bag, I'll describe the colors because I should have described them as well. So this is platinum, which is a medium steely gray, and turquoise, which is, you know, in the blue-green family, but definitely on the greener side, whereas Splash is in the blue-green family, but on the bluer side. Really cute together too. Prince is your traditional baby blue. Cherry is a traditional bright red, which goes really well as patriotic or Christmas color. So I'll show it with Snowflake, which is a pure white, and Navy, which is a dark navy blue. They look fantastic for patriotic color themes. And then if you add Clover to it, which is a very traditional, like emerald green, I would say, it looks really beautiful for Christmassy stuff. So that's Clover, Cherry, Snowflake, and Navy. So baby's first Christmas, or maybe a Christmas tree skirt, stuff like that would be great with that, or anything patriotic with the red, white, and blue. Here is Violet, which is a beautiful violet plum purple, so it's in that red purple family. Then we have Peach, which is a traditional soft peach. Princess would be your traditional baby pink. Then Orchid is it's a pink to purple range, so definitely a little more purpley pink than, say, the traditional baby pink of Princess. Really beautiful though. This is Orchid. Then we have Mint, which is a traditional baby green color, light green, and not sagey at all. It's really more mint. It's a definitely more green. It doesn't go into the gray at all, so it's not like a sage, it is mint. And then we have Buttercup, which is a really soft yellow, really beautiful. And last but not least is Diva, which is a bright raspberry pink. So to show you the comparison, you can see how different it looks from a classic red, which is Cherry. By itself, it's hard to tell how pink it is, but once you put it up next to the red, you can see it definitely is a raspberry pink, and it is quite bright and bold and beautiful. But it also looks pretty toned down, so like if you were going to do it as an accent color with platinum and Snowflake, you can see how it really tones it down. It just makes it a pop of color too. Either way. Okay, so that yarn is on sale. So Be So Baby is 25% off this week. So is Be So Bold and Be So Lush and Be So Serene. And if anybody has any questions about that, please let me know. There's no coupon code required, so as you put the sale yarns in your shopping cart and you go to check out, the 25% discount is automatically taken. So super easy, don't have to do anything. But I'll wait and see if there's any questions before I move on. Can you tell that my flowers are all gone in the back? Must be, I guess, now I'm learning. It's my first full year here, so looks like all the bougainvilleas lost their flowers for the summer, which is such a bummer. It's still green and lush, but no more bright pink and purple and coral flowers, but hopefully they'll be back when the weather starts cooling off. I don't know how long that'll be, but or maybe they're just taking a little break. I don't know, but I definitely miss all the colors in my yard. I love the fact that it's so green, but kind of bummed that there's no flowers anymore. I have a couple of blossoms left on my orchid over here, and that's it for color back here. Everything else is just green now, which is a little strange. Okay, baby Bjorn, you want to come say hi, don't you? Somebody wants to come say hi. Yeah, I love the flowers too, and I'm so excited for them to come back. Does anybody have any other questions about what we've talked about so far before I move on? Do you have any questions? What about you? You have questions? He doesn't have questions. thank you, Jane. This is Bjorn. Where's Becker? Becker's not with us this morning. He must be inside still, sleeping away. Jane has 2 cats too. Yeah, I talked to the person who I adopted them from yesterday, and she was just reminding me about how bad off these poor babies were when she found them. They were 2 weeks old in a box in a McDonald's parking lot, starving to death. They had no food and were just terrified and starving. And she picked them up. Oh, stop that. She picked them up, brought them back to health, and that's when we got to adopt them a couple weeks later. Just breaks my heart every time she tells me the story. Do I have projects that I made with the Be So Baby yarn? Yes. For example, this Shangri-La tapestry bag is one pattern that I've done with it. Then the Rainbow Connection baby set is also done in Be So Baby yarn. Absolutely beautiful. I did not pull it out this morning. Could bring it out another time, but you can find the videos here on my YouTube channel and find the full pattern collection on my website. Just search Rainbow Connection and it'll come up. You're gonna go. Okay, all right. So if there are no more questions, we'll move on to talk a little more about foundation ovals. So yesterday we touched on some of the ways you can make an invisible center join for using a foundation oval instead of a starting chain or other types of foundation stitches. So I showed the Chantilly lace vest, and if you want to see this in more details, go watch yesterday's podcast. So here's where the join is here, and it's rather invisible because of the nature of foundation ovals. No, baby Bjorn, that's not for you. And then I showed how to do that in a top-down project of the Sweet Clara top, where not only does it mimic depending on the size of the foundation oval you use, you can mimic the repeat of the stitch pattern and also have a beautiful scalloped finished edge from the opposite end of the foundation oval that is not worked into because you're only working into one side in a situation like this. Then I also showed how you can use a foundation oval to begin a Mobius twist and also mimic the repeat of the stitch pattern you're going to work into both sides to create a completely invisible start to a project that works in both directions. So similar but different to the Chantilly lace vest we talked about as well. All 3 of these patterns are available on my website: the Chantilly lace vest, the Sweet Clara top, and the Rio Mobius. And then I wanted to show you a couple other variations of things that I've done with foundation ovals. So here is a version of motifs that you can also do with a foundation oval. So these motifs are granny stitch based, but they're rectangle. This is the Tyra wrap from my book Motif Magic. And if I would have done a starting chain along the center of these rectangles, it would have been way more noticeable. You would have seen a solid stripe line in here. And I didn't want that. I wanted the granny stitch to not look like it had a beginning. So I used a foundation oval in the size that mimicked the 3-stitch cluster that I worked on each side of it. And so once I tell you that and you look closely, you can see those foundation ovals, right? But once we back it up, you can tell that it's granny stitch, but you have no idea how it's worked. And I find that to be really interesting, because obviously this is worked in the round, not in rows. And worked in the round is what gives you the ability to join so beautifully along the edges and in the corners. But in order to work in the round and keep it looking rather uniform, I had to replace the starting chain with foundation ovals. You could have also done foundation single crochet, but that would have given you a stripy effect, just like the starting chain would have. The foundation ovals mimicking the stitch pattern is what gives you that invisible beginning to these motifs. And you can apply that to a variety of different types of motifs, but I wanted to show you that this is another way of working from the center out, how it also works to use foundation ovals. And then this project is called the, what is this called? The Selena wrap from Layers Crochet. And I used foundation ovals in this one for the shoulder joins. So let me put it on real quick so you can see the construction first. Oh, there's Becker. Becker's in my chair. Okay, so here's the type of project that I'm talking about. It's a ruana or a vest, meaning it's a large square in the back and two smaller squares or rectangles in the front. And instead of sewing, I work off of the base of the foundation ovals and work in one direction for the back, and then come back and work in the opposite end of them to work them in the other direction. And you can see it ends up looking like part of the design of the stitch pattern. If I would have done a starting chain or a foundation single crochet or any of the other foundation stitches, you would have seen a solid line here. And I think it's really beautiful. I think it's a really beautiful option to use a stitch that where you can't see that it's a join. I'd rather not know where it's joined. I think it's just more interesting to that to the naked eye, you don't know how it's made. I like that mystery. Not to say that, and saying all this from today and yesterday, none of this is meant to imply, come here, baby. Okay, so now Becker's gonna take his turn. So none of this is meant to imply that there's anything wrong with a starting chain or foundation stitches. There's a time and a place for everything, and there's a project for every type of technique. All I'm offering you is another option. So if there are times when you think that you would like the option of something to look more invisible, that start to look more invisible, this is an option, but I'm in no way trying to imply that starting chains and other types of foundation stitches are bad. They're all good, and there's reasons and purposes for all of them, and you may want the design element of seeing a solid line in any of these particular options, or a more rigid edge than, like we talked about that yesterday, that a starting chain is more rigid than the elasticity of a row of stitches, and a foundation oval gives you some of that elasticity. So like, let's say you were doing a scarf and starting it on one end and then finishing it like in stitches on the other. If you start with a chain, it will never be as wide as the width of the other end that has stitches on, that ends with stitches. So a couple of different ways that you can fix that. You can either do a starting chain, work in this direction halfway, work in this direction halfway, so that at least it's symmetrical and both ends are the same. You could also do that with foundation single crochet, double crochet, foundation any stitch to give you a more elastic beginning and work in both directions still. Or if it's a stitch pattern that you think a foundation oval would look beautiful for the start, you could start that in the center and work your pattern out in both directions. Now, if you wanted to work only in one direction, start, end, be done, a foundation oval or any of the foundation stitches would be better than a starting chain to keep the beginning width and the end width the same. Does anybody have any questions about that? It's way more wordy than, it sounds more complicated than it is. I'll wait and see if there's any questions before I move on. Thanks, Linda. I'm glad you like the foundation ovals. What yarn did I use for the Ruana? I used Be So Bare, which is the base for Be So Serene. So same yarn. Very happy to see so many people are enjoying the foundation ovals. It just gives you another option for different things. Okay, so somebody mentioned in a comment yesterday, how do you increase in foundation ovals? And it's really not that difficult. Well, might not be able to do it from our swatch that we started yesterday, and it might be something I have to add on to once we've done a little more, but I did want to show you a few things from yesterday's swatches. And I'm going to do them right in front of the camera again today, so this tutorial isn't necessarily for how to learn how to crochet stitches. If that's something that's more your cup of tea at your certain skill level, I highly recommend going and watching my videos that are about all the stitches. It's a crochet stitch library. Oh, thank you. You love my water glass. Yeah, they're plastic and they're from Marshall's. I love them too. They don't last long though. I had a clear set, and they lasted about a year through the washing or dishwasher. And I'm on my second set in turquoise now, and they have not lasted a year yet, and they're already getting rough. But whatever, they're cute and they're cheap, so. And they don't break on hard floors, and I have all hard floors, so we need plastic around here. Yes, foundation ovals make a beautiful neckline. That's what we were talking about with the Sweet Clara top, and I've done it in lots of different top-down sweater projects. That's the foundation ovals making beautiful, slightly scalloped edge or even edging to the neckline of different sweaters. Okay, so yesterday we, they're kind of scuffed up more. Maybe they would make them less cloudy. I don't know. I'll try the bleach. We'll see. So anyway, yesterday I showed you different sizes of foundation ovals. We went from a double crochet version with chain 3, a double crochet version with chain 4, a treble crochet version with chain 4, and then a double treble crochet version with a chain 5. So basically, whatever size oval you need for whatever size stitch pattern repeat you're using, there is a bunch of different options. You can make them any size you need for whatever project you're working. If you're trying to replicate a multiple of 5 stitches for your stitch pattern, do a chain 5 double treble crochet. If you're trying to replicate a a multiple of 3 stitch pattern, do a chain 3 double crochet. You can replicate any type of stitch pattern, and then also depending on if it's just solid stitches in there, like the granny stitch motifs I was showing you, we're trying to work from that center, we're trying to work 3 double crochets into each side. So for something like that, a chain 3 double crochet would be fine too. If you wanted it a little stretchier, you could do a chain 4 double crochet as well. And you'll notice that throughout my patterns, anytime I use foundation ovals, I do change it up depending on what I need the foundation oval to do. Someone mentioned my dress. This is another version of the Amazon dress that I wear all the time. It's just in a different print. It's actually in a light colored print that I haven't felt comfortable wearing till I started losing weight, but it's so cute. It has hibiscus flowers on it and big fern leaves, and this is like a real teal blue, and there's coral and light pink in these flowers. Super cute and tropical, and if you go to my Amazon shop, you can find it there. Okay, so I went back to just my chain 3 double crochet foundation ovals, and I wanted to show you how we work into them. So when you're working on one side of the project, we're going to work into those holes. We're not going to work into the actual chain. So we'll work into them from one side, and then when we finish this side, we can turn around Do you crochet your first row on the chain side of the oval? You can crochet anything into there. You can crochet a stitch pattern. You can do solid stitches. It does not matter. Whatever your stitch pattern is. I'll go back to some of the other ones. This one does not work just regular stitches. There's our foundation oval, and we start right off in the stitch pattern. See, we start right off with a cluster of stitches on each side and then a single crochet on each side in the next oval. And you can see this on these patterns in the written words or in the charts. You can also see it in the videos of any of these as well. So another example where we go right into the stitch pattern and not do, the Hope Case in 80 Handmade Gifts. I use it for a lot of different projects. The Fresh Market bag also. Here we worked, just started right in on the stitch pattern. And here we started right in on the stitch pattern. But to show you an alternative, if you wanted to do just a row of double crochets, you could do that here too. So because this is a chain 3 double crochet foundation oval, I'm counting that as a multiple of 3. So I'll work 3 double crochets into each foundation oval across. So I've got 3 in that one, and then I'll come over to the next foundation oval and find the center of it, the large space in the center. Kind of like when we do a chain 5 ring in the beginning of a motif. You want to think of these like that. There's a large space in the center, and I'll work Now, if you wanted to work into the individual stitches, you could. You would just want to be, that would be a design element that you could choose in your project, and you would just want to be consistent throughout, right? I kind of like the eyelet space by working into the large space on both sides. Okay, so I'm just going to work across these. Okay, and so I started with a chain 3 at the beginning of the row that didn't count as my first double crochet of the chain 3, of the 3 double crochets in each foundation oval. So I'm going to end with a double crochet outside of the clusters as well. So this repeat ends up being a multiple of 3 plus 2, 1 edge stitch on each side and the 3 in each foundation oval across. Now, I would continue on with a chain, remember what we talked about last week, when you're working rows of double crochet, you can either do a chain 2 to not count as your stitch and double crochet in each stitch across, or chain 3 to count as your first stitch, skip that first stitch, and then double crochet in each stitch across. So those are options for this, but I'm going to pick up a second color of yarn so that I can pretend and work into the opposite end here. Okay, so I'm going to work into the opposite end of my foundation ovals now, so I'll slip stitch to join. Oh, and at this point you might want to look at your stitches and look for the right side. I want the right side facing to be the same for both of the first rows, so I'm going to make sure that the right side is facing, join with a slip stitch, chain 3, oops, chain 3, and then in the opposite end of that foundation oval, see how you can actually see the space a lot better because it's been worked into on the opposite end. We're now going to work 3 double crochets into the opposite end of those foundation ovals on this side. I'm going to do a couple repeats and then I'll show you what it looks like. You can't really see while I'm working, so just bear with me a second. And there we go. We've worked into the opposite end of the foundation ovals. And so we have our work moving out in this direction and out in this direction. And then let's say this is going to be a scarf. So as you're working out in both directions, you can choose your edging and it'll be completely symmetrical and the same width. You can choose to end it and just be a simple double crochet piece. Either way, it's going to be completely symmetrical on both ends and it'll end with double crochets on both ends. Would foundation ovals work well for slipper soles in the round? What do slipper soles begin with? A chain? Yeah, if it would just replace the chain or the foundation stitches. You would just want to check and see what's softer on your foot. I think maybe even depending on what stitch you're working for that sole, if you're working a single crochet in the round, you might want to replace it with a foundation single crochet instead of a chain. But when you're working a sole from the round, that beginning chain is more rigid and that doesn't really bother the shape of a project either, because that is the tightest spot, right? I think it's only important to consider these options when you want to add elasticity. In a situation like that, you're not looking to add elasticity. When you're starting the beginning of a sole of a sock, you kind of want it to be pretty rigid down there. So it depends on what it feels like. If the chain feels harder on your foot, then I would change to some sort of foundation stitch, because when it's more rigid, it also feels tougher underneath your feet. Yes, we talked about this being a great substitute for necklines, both yesterday and today. That is correct. Yes, foundation ovals are great for necklines. Good morning, B-Girl. Glad you could join us. All right, does anybody have any other questions about what we touched on with foundation ovals today? I did enjoy the question someone had about increases, and I will get this swatch a little further along today so that by tomorrow we can talk about increases and decreases. Decreases are not such an important element in foundation ovals because they are a beginning to a project, but I can definitely touch base on how to increase with them for sure. So we can do that tomorrow. But let's see if there's any questions for now, based on what we talked about so far. Okay, I don't see any questions, so would somebody like to pick a number between 1 and 5, and we will pick one of the Create, Share, Inspire notebooks and randomly pick a quote. Cherie says number 3. Okie dokie. Here is issue number 3, and we will randomly pick a quote. Oh, this is such a pretty one. Really does help you to take a little pressure off yourself when you're sad. A Native American proverb: the soul would have no rainbow if the eye had no tears. That is so nice. I know sometimes when we get upset and we feel like crying, I don't know, for me, I end up feeling bad. I end up feeling more upset with myself for crying even. And I should remember this when I'm being upset with myself for showing sad emotion. It's okay to cry, and it is definitely okay to let out the pressure from inside of you. And just remember, the soul has no rainbow if the eyes have no tears. There's no beauty at the end if we don't make it through. So I love that one. So nice. And it's just part of the process. In order to get to the rainbow, you have to shed a few tears first, and that's okay too. So this is a beautiful and simple Native American proverb, and I'll read it one more time. The soul would have no rainbow if the eye had no tears. So nice. Such a great way to remind us to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves and remember, you are enough right now, just the way you are. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed my yarn show and tell, discussion about the Christmas in July sale, the tutorial and show and tell on foundation ovals, chatting with me and everyone else here, including baby Bjorn and Becker. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Tomorrow we will be at 7 p.m. and all of the podcasts for this week are already scheduled. So if you want to go check it out on my YouTube channel, they are already scheduled so you can see what time they are every day this week. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.